to go to that press conference with Harris County Judge Lena Hidalgo speaking right now.
Thank Mayor Whitmer
Take a listen.
for being here, for all the work. I think both of us and our teams were working through the night, and that's just so important to be able to coordinate and work together, and I'm really thrilled that you and your team are here. Thank you. I'm here also with Mark Sloan, our Chief Emergency Manager, Chief Rodney Reed from the Harris County Fire Marshal's Office, Jeff Linder, a meteorologist, Paul Locke, who's the Manager of Local Government Relations from Centerpoint, Jeff Evans from the National Weather Service, and I want to just acknowledge our commissioners. They've been working to pick up the debris, and so they're working really hard. We don't normally have them here because if we bring one, we have to bring all of them, but I do want to acknowledge them. I've been in touch with several of them overnight. Extremely, extremely hard work. In terms of what is happening, it's been a long 2 weeks. I know that a lot of people woke up this morning to see debris, to see destruction. Several people experienced a storm yesterday, and I've heard some horror stories of just terror and powerlessness. This is the second time our community's been battered in just 2 weeks. Thankfully, the areas impacted last time by the San Jacinto River, the flooding there, of course we had some street flooding in Kingwood, were not impacted by last night's event, but we are ultimately one community. Our first responders are the same first responders. And so we're gonna acknowledge how unfortunate that is, how frustrating that is, how unlikely it is, but we're also gonna keep moving forward. Last night, we were expecting some rain. The meteorologists were in touch with us. We knew something was coming, but instead we saw winds of 80 to 100 miles an hour. I asked, how did we not see that coming? And what they shared with me is this is at the peak end of an unlikely scenario to happen. So certainly, to put it gently, we got unlucky last night in terms of what ended up happening with the weather. It's rare for these kinds of things to happen. This kind of wind is something we have not seen in Harris County since Hurricane Alicia in 1983. There were strong winds in Ike. I remember, so many of us remember in 2008, but it was not like this. I was in Washington, D.C. yesterday. I was visiting with the Vice President, talking about Mental Health Month. But as soon as I heard about how bad the winds were, I luckily was able to find one seat on the plane, got in about 3 in the morning, and had a chance to work with our partners overnight. There's a lot we know, and there's a lot we don't know. So the fundamental takeaway here from me is, please give us until tomorrow, 24 hours, for more certainty. For right now, for the people who are watching this on their phone, don't know what's going to happen, don't have power, are wondering the extent of the damage, we are working as hard as we can to get that for you. We, the precincts, the state, the first responders, everybody. We know there was a tornado in Bridgeland and Cypress, which opened into really high winds into the downtown metro area, and then toward the bay. And we can see the image there that our team put together. And so that whole area with the red lines, it started up here in Bridgeland, and then it went all the way down. And so, but of course, not all of that, thankfully, is destroyed. So it's really some sort of sporadic strings of damage where you may have one home or one street and the next one over is fine. It's just the nature of this kind of thing. But that also makes it difficult for us to know exactly where the trouble areas are. We have flipped 18-wheelers. We have an 8-unit apartment shut down in Galena Park. We know there have been casualties, but we don't know the latest number, the number of injuries. I've spoken to several people who obviously are going through a hard time. We've had multiple structure fires related to the initial impacts and the continuing impacts as early as this morning. Some areas of really bad damage pretty much all along the diagonal I mentioned, that corridor of really intense damage. We do have some trees down, multiple streaks of damage, all laid out in the same direction from northwest to southeast. So here's another key message for everyone. We are going to have to talk about this disaster in weeks, not days. For some folks, the luckier ones, it might be days, not hours. For some who've had the power restored, you know, that's wonderful. But for many, many people, it's going to be weeks and not days. At peak, we had 930,000 customers in Centerpoint's service region without power. And so most of them were in Harris County. Now we are at 740,000 customers without power. The bulk of those also in Harris County. We have had a number of transmission lines down, 7 of those are in Harris County. But of course, our region has been affected. For those without power, I want to be really direct so you can begin calibrating your expectations. If you are tied into the transmission lines that fell, those huge towers, we've seen them piled down, imagine 10 of them in a couple different places in the county. That can take weeks to restore. Centerpoint doesn't know exactly the damage or how long it will take or who is ultimately tied into those transmission lines. But there will be some people in the county that, just like in Ike, are going to have to go a couple of weeks most likely without power. Centerpoint has 2,000 mutual aid folks committed en route to restore power. They're working to secure up to 4,000 coming from all over the regions, but they have asked they won't be done assessing the damage until tomorrow and just need a whole day just to assess the facilities. In terms of what we don't know the extent of damage yet. We don't know the timeline for electricity restoration. We don't know, again, the exact number of fatalities or injuries. Our emergency operations center is getting more full by the minute, and everybody is just working with their agencies. The warning messages that were sent out, the National Weather Service, the media, we saved countless lives, and I love to know that we don't have that number because our first responders and our community took actions to take care of themselves, followed our advice, moved away from windows, moved to a lower floor, and that was probably the first time we'd ever put that into the messaging, so I appreciate that people followed those warnings. Our crews work day and night to clear debris, again, whether it be the precincts, whether it be TxDOT or others. They continue damage assessments. I'll be going next up in a helicopter with Austin Appleton, the manager of disaster recovery in our engineering department, so we can get a full picture. And, you know, they don't know until they see it up there. I don't know until I see it from up there. But we know that there's some bad damage in some areas. 15 of our Harris County libraries, and this is some positive news, they just told us we'll be able to open today from 9 to 6 p.m. And they can be cooling centers. They will be fully staffed, so there will also be activities for the kids. I know that our school districts are out, any of the affected areas. There's computers, you can charge your phone, there's AC. I will put all those locations, we'll put that on readyharris.org as soon as we have confirmation as to exactly which ones. They're just finalizing the staffing plans, but just stay tuned for that. And they're working also to stay open at least through the weekend. We'll keep them open as long as possible. What we found in the past is folks do visit the cooling centers during the day. Once school is in again, you know, that'll be great. People can go back to work as well. And then at night, folks just prefer to stay at their homes, even though it's pretty hot, you know, but with a fan and just light covering. We're coordinating with partners, hospitals, the Red Cross, fire departments for damage assessments, welfare checks on medically fragile individuals. We're responsible for Harris County. The various cities are responsible for theirs. So Centerpoint, again, has dispatched crews from across the region, and we're in touch with Lifeline sectors, water, food, fuel. Some are offline. We are taking stock of the various grocery stores. Some are only being able to offer non-perishable canned goods, but that's great. It's food. They know how vital they are to our community, and that will be a situation that's very fluid as these grocery stores come back online. They're also working very hard to be as fast as possible, and I don't think we can even keep up with that on Ready Harris. We just need folks to watch the news. And in terms of, there have been some telecommunication towers impacted. I know that folks had a little bit of a hard time with the phones, and that's why, but they are absolutely addressing that. Debris has been cleared from the freeways. There is still debris in neighborhoods, and so we do have a couple recommendations there. We're also working with the Red Cross. So here's what folks should know. Folks should do. If you have an elderly neighbor, somebody who lives alone, who might be medically fragile, check in on them. Most importantly, we need your help with life safety. It's dangerous to be moving around on the streets right now. Some folks have said, I want to go out, get a hotel right now. It's not going to be that hot today. It's not going to be that humid the way it's going to be the next couple of days. And we don't want you to put yourself in danger. So if there's debris on your street, just be really careful and help pick up the smaller debris. If you've never used a chainsaw before, this is not the day to start. If you're using a generator, please remember not to bring it inside, because those fumes from the carbon monoxide, they always end up being a problem. Don't put it under an awning. That all will be an issue. If it's large debris, the best thing you can do is call 311 anywhere in the county. They will route you to the relevant group. Folks that are traveling through the interstates, the major highways, those folks are out and about, but once you exit those interstates and you go into the neighborhood, watch for those tree limbs, power lines, grass, debris. So in the next 12 hours, it's still a public safety situation because of the debris, and we really want folks to keep that in mind. If you smell gas, the first thing you should do is get out. And after that, report the gas leak by calling Centerpoint. You can find the number online, and it's 1-800-752-8036. 1-800-752-8036. For folks without power, we have several folks here in the Operations Center who lost power during Hurricane Ike, and it's uncomfortable. It's sticky, but we'll get through it. The worst thing that will happen if we all do our part is there will be some discomfort, but we can definitely get through this together. The good news on the weather today is going to be pretty mild. The school districts are closed. The water is safe to drink. We don't have any updates on or any news of boil water notices, which we will keep watch on. Patience is the name of the game. Life safety first, and then patience with first responders. Patience with our crews, patience with your neighbors, patience on road closures. Everybody, all of us here, all of us upstairs, everybody involved is working around the clock, and we're working as fast as we possibly can. We can't do it any faster. We're currently activated at level 1 maximum readiness, and I just signed a disaster declaration earlier this morning so that we can get any additional resources that we need with particular urgency. We'll post updates on readyharris.org as we have them. To conclude, just an update on our state and federal partners. The state is here. They've been here all night. I was chatting to the representative around 3:30 in the morning last night. They're always very supportive during emergencies. And they have put Harris County on the list of counties that would like to receive individual assistance, individual grants for the flooding a couple weeks ago. The White House has reached out to our government affairs team. Our ask for the administration right now that I will pass along the moment I connect with the administration is we are asking for individual assistance. And folks will remember I used to say, well, it's unlikely we'll get it because we didn't have enough impacts to receive individual assistance with the flooding. Well, we are requesting that the flooding be combined with this disaster. This is not unprecedented in terms of if we have two disasters back to back, they're connected, they're combined. At that point, we will certainly have enough affected individuals, and there's no reason we shouldn't get individual assistance. And so those are grants, and we would still also receive the low interest loans from the Small Business Administration. So I'm grateful the state has included us in the request for presidential disaster declaration. We expect the federal government will place utmost attention on Governor Abbott's request to receive resources from federal partners as quickly as possible. If we need anything, we'll tell the state, they'll tell the federal government. But if the federal government supports us the way we hope they will, then residents affected by both disasters will be able to receive direct grants and also the loans. We're going to do everything to keep you informed as soon as we have information. I don't want to provide information that I am not certain about. We will give you the best advice that we have. And in turn, we ask that you do your part in recognizing that this is the long game, that we're okay. We have had some casualties. We need to be careful on our roads. But right now, the winds have passed, and we need to take a beat, take a breath, and just be part of this response and recovery. The next few days are going to be hard. The next few weeks are going to be hard for some folks in our community. They're going to be uncomfortable, but we've been through this. Our first responders have been through this. This was an unlikely scenario, but here we are, and we're nothing if not resilient. So let me pass it on to Mayor Whitmire. No, Mayor, you have to leave after that, and so then I'll repeat in Spanish and continue.
Thank you, Judge.
1 minute. Thank you.
I'm here to emphasize to Houstonians that city government, our department heads, are doing everything they can. We've been to the emergency center since minutes after the storm. Most of us have been at the emergency center all night long. I think we should pause for a moment and acknowledge the loss of 4 Houstonians that tragically were victims of this storm. There could be a 5th, but we're not certain that it's weather related, but the investigation is underway. The message last night was, do not go out. Stay at home last night. It was dark. We have 2,500 traffic lights not functioning. They're a priority. Centerpoint's trying to re-energize them. But as I talk to you, our first responders are spread thin. Stay away from downtown. Stay off the road unless you're an essential worker. Thank Superintendent Miles for canceling HISD today. So the children are at home, the parents should be at home. So the city employees are at home today, except for our essential workers. I would ask the business community to do the same. We're in recovery mode. Last night, certainly most of the evening was in a rescue mode. I can't say enough about Houston Fire, HPD, our emergency corps. I think we're witnessing the greatest collaboration during a crisis, certainly in my 50-plus years of public service. Mutual aid is coming from every direction. Centerpoint has 4,000 mutual aid technicians headed this way. I just got off the phone with Mayor Kirk Watson in Austin. They're sending us technicians to help us with our street lights. Smaller communities like Joe Zimmerman in Sugar Land are sending their public works director. I could go on and on, but it's important for Houstonians to know that everyone is doing everything they can. I mentioned first responders. I consider public works first responders. A lot of streets are blocked. As the judge said, Be patient. It's going to take time. Last night in a briefing, I had been told by Centerpoint moments after the storm, they thought it would be a 24, 48-hour recovery for power. Obviously now we're learning that there's transmission lines down, so as the judge mentioned, it will be days, if not weeks. But we've done this before. It's not pleasant. In fact, people were scared last night, and they had a right to be scared. I was at a Little League game. We were warned that we were fixing to have a storm move through, and then we would continue the game. No, ladies and gentlemen. It was fierce, it was intense, it was quick, and most Houstonians didn't have time to place themselves out of harm's way. And back to those first responders, right in the middle of moments after the storm, we had firefighters on 290 dealing with live wires, so people would have their mobility, live wires. So we have to be concerned about our first responders in these conditions. We've certainly been in touch with the state, and the MKID and the Emergency Center is sending us assistance. The county commissioners, Briones, who is here today, thank you for your collaboration. Moments after the storm, I was getting calls from Commissioner Garcia, Tom Ramsey, Briones, telling us they were moving their crews inside their precincts that reside in the city of Houston. So we're all in this together. I want Houstonians to know that first responders, and let me talk about public safety for a moment, which is all of our first responders, but law and order. We received 50 DPS officers overnight. They're stationed downtown right now. Sending the message to Houstonians, we're concerned about your public safety, your law and order, and the bad guys. I don't want to advertise how concerned we are about some vulnerabilities. We don't have power, which means you don't have burglar alarms. Don't even think about it if you're a bad guy. We have reinforcements, the collaboration of all of our area law enforcement, our sheriff's department. 50 DPS officers will be patrolling, backing up HPD. So there are a lot of moving parts, and there will even be more before this day is over. I have to go downtown in a moment for a damage assessment of the business central district. Please, Houstonians, area residents, stay away from downtown. It's dangerous. There's broken glass in every direction. So I want to emphasize, use common sense. Be smart. Don't be out today on the roads. 2,500 traffic lights are not energized. Our first responders will be making calls. If you have an emergency, call 911. If it's non-emergency, call 311. There's some backlog to those circuits, but they're functioning and up. We'll be at the emergency center after we do our damage assessment. We'll be getting coordinated with additional resources. The multi-service centers are going to be opened. Those with power will list the centers as cooling centers. The Lifeline necessities are being established. The food establishments, health concerns such as dialysis will be focused on. And quite frankly, I'm proud to be the mayor of Houston today. We're showing again the fine qualities and the unity that we come and distribute and exhibit during these difficult times. But we're doing everything we can. Be patient, use common sense, be kind to your neighbors, your family, your pets. Let's don't forget our family members that are caught up in this, including our pets. And I'll be glad to answer any questions. I will also, Jolanda Jones, Representative, thank you for being here. Commissioner Briones.
Thank you, Mayor.
I'll be glad to yield any of my time to you if you'd like to come in. I know she went through a horrified experience with her family. She was out working. Her family had to hide in a closet because of downed trees in the Timber Grove area. My house, I want everybody to understand, I'm walking the walk. I have no power at my house. And I'm not on anybody's priority list. Mine will be returned to power when everyone else's is. So with that, thank you, Judge, for bringing us together. The collaboration is strong, and it will be in the days to come.
We promised the Spanish media I'd go after you, so let me just repeat my remarks in Spanish.
Could I yield to the Commissioner
Mayor,
for a moment?
there's an impact in all 4 counties, and so whenever we have an impact on one county, the Commissioner joins, but all 4 counties have been impacted, and I don't feel comfortable with giving special treatment. Everybody was notified that you as the mayor and I as the county judge are speaking. I'm happy for them to join, but at least if you want her to speak, let me do the duty to the Spanish constituents.
Well, I'm just glad I made I'm glad I made the approval list.
Oh, Mayor, this is a disaster. This is not the time. Okay, so en español. Estamos aquí, bueno, primero agradecerle al alcalde Whitmire por venir, todo el apoyo de la ciudad.
All right, you've been listening in as a Houston Mayor John Whitmire and Harris County Judge Lena Hidalgo share an update after last night's severe weather that really swept through our area. The big thing here I think we really can underscore is that so many people, we're talking 700,000 people without power right now, and many people could go days without power at this point. At one point we were saying 24 to 48 hours. Now they're saying it could be days. I heard even maybe weeks.
Yeah. Judge Hidalgo is saying the latest numbers are 740,000 without power for restoration. We've seen a lot of people online especially saying, when am I going to get power back? A lot of people are anxious. They're worried about, the weather heating up, but it might be some time. That's the message that they want to get out there. Yeah. It may not be hours. It may be days. It may not be days. It may be weeks. So you have to be patient and do the best you can, and we'll all be able to get through this. But yeah, we were talking about today is supposed to be mild, so I think it might be a good recovery day for people as long as they're taking it easy. But we are expected for things to see things warm up.
Yeah, one thing she did say to note though, there will be 15 Harris County libraries, public libraries that will be open, or 15 libraries throughout Harris County that will be open as centers if you want, AC, if you want to charge your phone or just get away from the house, because obviously sitting in a house with no power can be frustrating. So when we get that list, they haven't released it just yet, but when that list of 15 libraries is available, we will share that. I did hear her say, she said, quote, we know there is a tornado right now, and not to throw her under the bus, but we don't know that just yet.
Correct. It hasn't been confirmed, no, but they have 2 weather service survey teams today. One is, I think, starting over in the Baytown area, the other starting in Cypress, and they're going to do the assessments there and then kind of come together. But I mean, Allison actually showed me some videos. Certainly looked like it was a funnel or probably a tornado touching down. So I think there probably was a tornado, but the majority of this damage was not done by the tornado. I mean, because this huge swath of high winds was separate, well, it was connected to, but separate from the actual tornado.
And when we were watching the radar yesterday, I mean, it was this giant line of basically bright green and then bright blue, which Mike was talking about earlier, that we never see, showing that's just how strong the winds were. Now within that, maybe some notches where we could have seen some tornadoes move through, but they said we should have an update if there were any confirmed tornadoes. That would be coming a little bit later today. So the second that information, if it does come out, we'll be sure to let you know.
It's a good lesson, though, for everybody, that when there's a severe thunderstorm warning, it can often be just as bad as a tornado warning. I know tornadoes are very scary, obviously, and most of the time they will do more damage than a severe thunderstorm. But yesterday, there was a relatively new product that a lot of folks heard about, which was, instead of just a severe thunderstorm warning, they call it a destructive severe thunderstorm warning. And that means that they're looking at winds, I think, of 80 miles per hour or higher. Wow. So the fact that that was in effect it's concerning, because how do you get that information out to everybody. Obviously, we always encourage people like download our app and things like that, but obviously not everybody's going to have that. And it looks like there were a lot of people that just had no idea. Even the mayor was at a Little League game or whatever. And it's like you think it's going to blow right through it, and really everybody should have been taking cover in a building. So I don't know, that's something that's probably going to have to be explored at some point. We don't have sirens, you know. They have them up in Dallas and some towns do, but I don't know, maybe it's a thought, maybe it's something to think about.
Yeah, I mean, they mentioned how this was an unlikely scenario.
Yes.
They were expecting the rain, but these winds, I mean, what makes it an unlikely scenario? Just them not being prepared for it, not seeing it coming?
I think it's so rare to have a line like that with such high winds. You would maybe have an individual storm that produced really high winds, like sometimes we've had downbursts. And then I was telling Allison about this, that last summer there was a record wind gust at Bush Airport of 97 miles an hour.
Oh, wow.
With a sort of a similar line that came through. But the extent of it was so much smaller.
The fact that it was going from Bridgeland and Cypress all the way down to the Heights and then beyond that, I mean, that is just a massive area. And we're seeing that with all the power outages. I mean, yesterday, more than 1 million people. Thankfully, that's dropped a little bit. But, I mean, it's just, it was intense.
It was pretty wild.
Yesterday.
And in fact, you know, this line, because I was talking to our colleague over in Orlando, Brooks, and this, what we call this MCS, this mesoscale convective system, basically the squall line, it held together all the way across the Gulf and made it to Florida this morning.
They've had 60, 70 mile per hour
they had like
winds.
60 or 70, like practically hurricane force wind gusts over there too, with basically the same system. I mean, it's wild.
I remember you saying yesterday morning, I believe it was, when we were telling people this was coming, I remember you said nothing is off the table. I remember those words specifically. And I'm like, well, you said that, and clearly everything was on the table.
And it is like, I don't know what really, when you have trees that have come down like this, I was talking to Allison too about that maybe since we've had so much recent rain, that maybe that sort of weakened the soil a little bit.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, yeah, speaking of, we still have a lot of trees down across the area, a lot of road debris. So just a reminder for people not to be out and about unless they absolutely need to be. But again, you know, downtown is a mess. The mayor is saying avoid downtown at all costs. You have, we had Shelby Rose there all morning showing all the broken windows. Look at the damage right here. That was video from inside I think that was maybe inside the Wells Fargo building. So you can see the storm passing through. It's such a scary situation. And now looking at so much debris, so much glass everywhere. Shelby was mentioning that things are still falling. So that's not where we want people
Can you imagine?
No.
Yeah,
Right.
shards of glass falling.
Oh, my goodness.
That's terrifying.
Yeah.
And then even traffic lights, I know he was saying thousands of traffic lights are still out.
2,500 traffic lights.
2,500
Still
traffic
out.
lights. So I think they're trying to get assistance, even as far as Austin. The mayor of Austin is offering some techs to come up and fix some of these traffic lights, because that's a traffic mess when you're going out trying to drive. And then we're even telling people how to operate, you know, when these lights are out as a four-way stop in a sense. So it's definitely a mess and not really safe to be out if you don't have to be out right now, which is why the mayor has been saying, even since last night when we were on, if you don't have to leave the house, if you're not an essential worker, don't leave. All the schools are canceled right now. HISD canceled early last night.
Right.
So it's a mess.
Kids are home, parents should be home preferably as well.
Yeah, hopefully.
So yeah, it was good to hear that we are getting more assistance to our area. He mentioned how the PDs, the police departments like Sugar Land and all them pitching in to help, because we're going to need help not only with navigating traffic and keeping everybody from, you know, adding more injuries and accidents to this, but also, you know, keeping an eye out for people who might try to take advantage, as we always have people trying to take advantage after a storm, looters and things like that. So it was good to hear 50 DPS officers. We've gotten to the area, so they're here to help, and all the surrounding counties and areas also pitching in. So that is the bright spot out of all of this. But we have 4 confirmed deaths so far. Judge Lena Hidalgo did mention an apartment complex in Galena Park. There's extensive damage there, so we're waiting to hear, you know, about injuries or you know, hopefully not any other deaths, but we have to keep our ears and eyes open to what may happen in this aftermath, or what we might find Right now, there are currently more than 2,000 employees and contractors deployed, with approximately 4,000 line workers and 1,000.
This is from Centerpoint.
This is from Centerpoint. 1,000 vegetation professionals requested for mutual assistance support. So Centerpoint did say that they are going to need, like, today is an assessment day for them. I know people are so anxious to get that power back on, but they're going to need all day to really assess, like, figure out what's going on.
And I think as we go through the next several days, first off, you want to check on your elderly neighbors because they can't get out and do these types of things, and you want to make sure they're safe. And then to piggyback off that, it's going to be in the 90s. And so folks are going to want to be out there, and I think we heard the judge say, if you've never used a chainsaw, now is not the time to start.
Oh, no.
You just don't know how just overexhausted your body's going to be over the next several days. So if you can, take breaks. I know it's going to be difficult maybe to find AC, but drink plenty of water, wear loose-fitting clothes if you are going to be out there. We just want to make sure everyone's safe on the back end of this, because the weather's going to be calming down, but
it's going to warm up.
Not,
There was a study that was done. This is going back a ways, but back in 2004, 2005 was well known as the year of Katrina and Rita and stuff. But Florida was hit like 9 times or something by 9 hurricanes, I think, between 04 and 05. The reason I mention this is because they went back and looked at the injuries and the fatalities both during the storm and then before and after the storm. And it turned out that it's equally as dangerous after the storm because for multiple reasons. Traffic accidents, because traffic lights are out and people are not paying attention or, blowing through, traffic where there's no traffic signal and getting in collisions there. People have heart attacks from not only from the stress, but from going out. I mean, just imagine you're overwhelmed. You have no electricity. You've got a tree that's blocking your driveway or something like that, and you say, well, I'm going to go out and take care of it, and you go out there and the next thing you know, it's 92 degrees, starting tomorrow, and people have heart attacks. There's falls, people are patching roofs and things like that. So there's a lot of things you would never think about that are ways that there are casualties that happen not directly associated with a storm. And it's electrocutions can happen too. That happened in a lot of our previous hurricanes and stuff, where people will return to their home and not realize that the wires are live and just go grab something and get electrocuted. It's happened. I mean, it happened during Hurricane Harvey even. So always have to be very careful.
Just stay 35 feet away. That's what Centerpoint says. We've got down power lines all across our area. So 35 feet away. If you see one sparking or burning wire, don't spray water on it. And then if you do see a down power line, you can call 311. You don't need to call 911, but call 311 to report it.
And obviously there had to be some sort of major, I mean, we dealt with some strong winds. When you see, we just showed that power transmission tower that, just toppled. And we were talking, during hurricane force winds quite often, when we're dealing with hurricanes, it doesn't go down. So something like this, to see this, is insane.
I don't recall ever seeing that. Even in some of the big hurricanes we've had, I don't recall seeing that.
Yeah, and they would have to be built to withstand hurricanes because I
would think they're built. I mean, maybe we could, in the days to come, ask an engineer, but I would think that they are built to standards for the probably Category 5 winds or something, because gosh, not only are they expensive, but when they fall, it's extremely dangerous.
And it looks like the base is still there, but it literally just kind of cracked in half.
My goodness. So that's off of 290.
And some of this, it does get real complicated with winds, because sometimes the winds, because these things are really tall, the winds near the top of them can be a lot stronger than the winds at the bottom of them, so that's why sometimes you might have 70-mile-an-hour winds or 80-mile-per-hour winds that are measured, at the surface. But if you go up to the top of these things that are a few hundred feet tall, it might be 100 plus, 110, who knows, more than that. So, but this is sort of unprecedented. We've had a lot of severe weather events, and rarely do you see one that has such a large swath, of damage.
And during rush hour, unfortunately, that just happened to be the time yesterday, so folks were out and about.
Let's go back into the press conference. The mayor and Judge Hidalgo are taking questions from the press here now.
95% of our water is functioning. The water is safe, so please dispel that. Obviously, if I had more time, I'd talk about in another day. Our water plants are fragile because they've been neglected for years, and it's a high priority. But today, during the storm, our water is safe to drink. If there's any change in the days to come, we'll certainly let you know. Now, I don't want to play favorites because it's your press card, but Jolanda Jones has a very vital message about the homeless and the conditions they're facing downtown. So I don't want to get out of line, but she's got a real concern. That's her district, and the glass is everywhere, and it's kind of the purpose of me being here is to allow people to know the concerns we have and how you address public safety. So, Judge, thank you. But
thank you. Let's take questions and then we can have,
Just really quickly.
We'll take questions.
I tried.
No, but I actually went downtown because it's in my district, and I just want to say this. You need to stay away from downtown. I literally just came from there. There's glass everywhere, big glass, because buildings' glass have fallen, and I'm extremely concerned about the homeless population because if you don't have shoes, you're going to shred your feet. And if you have on flip-flops, so just stay away. I know people are there sort of like watching a bad accident to take video. It's not worth it. Please stay away. I'm really concerned. That's all I have to say.
Do you guys have any questions?
No, but Larry, I was going to ask you, you mentioned a possible fifth fatality. Can you elaborate on that? What part of town?
It's under investigation. That's all I can tell you is when I showed up before sunup, it was still 4 fatalities as it was when I left mid-morning or during the night. But we're not ready to release that because we're trying to determine if it's weather related. So I'll let you know as soon as I saw the fire chief was here. I was going to recognize him. I'm supposed to meet Chief Satterwhite a few minutes ago to do an assessment downtown. So I think they're actually arranging when we finish here for our press availability to discuss further city business and concerns.
Any other questions, folks?
Mayor, is there any further information concerning the known 4 people that died due to the storm, especially related to the one?
Some real tragedies. I was briefed last night. Horrible accident with a family. A tree fell, went right through the driver's compartment with children in the back. So that's where I was concerned about, that we slow down and remember those that have suffered so much. Allow our first responders. The areas are being investigated. Then there was a tower that fell on a maintenance man. So the other was a tree fatality again. So it's amazing when you travel across the city, Timber Grove, where the commissioner lives, trees next door to me. It's amazing how many people came so close to losing everything. And we need to keep them in our thoughts. And the details, addresses, and others will be forthcoming, but at this point, they're investigations.
What was the highest wind you guys reported yesterday? And
Wind?
You said it was a tornado. It was confirmed as a tornado.
The National Weather folks are telling me there was twisters. They don't necessarily call it a tornado. What's amazing, as the judges pointed out, it just came down 290 through northwest Houston, through the Heights, into the Central Business District, and headed toward the Bay, going literally, that's that footprint right there. 80, 90, it hit 100 miles per hour, which are hurricane type intensity. And what is so shocking, and I was out in it, is the suddenness, the intensity, and what you didn't feel safe in a car. Of course, you're in a car when we were leaving the ballpark, so what do? So we just pulled over in the parking lot. People were finding cover anywhere, the car washes, people were pulling in, service stations. It was so dangerous, and I was able to work my way to the emergency center going down Pinemont. T.C. Jester and Pinemont was completely blocked by large trees. So just shows you, you know, we love our trees, but boy, during the storm, you gotta be prepared.
Jeff, did you have something to add?
Officially, the highest wind we've had so far is 78 miles an hour. That was recorded at I-10 in the San Jacinto River, U.S. Coast Guard cutter.
Would you go to the microphone?
Sorry. The highest wind recorded so far has been 78 miles per hour at I-10 at the San Jacinto River with the U.S. Coast Guard. Damage surveys are ongoing from the National Weather Service to determine if there was tornadoes, the track, the intensity of those locations that they are surveying. One is in northwest Harris County in the Bridgeland area. The other one is in the Baytown area, I believe, in the Galena Park, Baytown area. And then we're also going to be looking at some stuff around downtown Houston. What I have seen overnight, it was a lot of straight line wind, especially in the urban core. In this area, Oak Forest, Timber Grove, Spring Branch, into the downtown area, it was straight line winds. Everything is in the same direction. But I'll let Mr. Evans with the Weather Service talk a little bit more about the surveying.
Jeff Evans, National Weather Service. As Jeff said, we're out today. We have to determine, looking at damage, whether or not tornadoes occurred or not. We have not confirmed any tornadoes as of yet. This morning, we are, as Jeff said, we have teams in particular up there in northwest Harris County and northern Waller County to look for a tornado. We did have some video that seemed to suggest that it can look like on radar it would match that as well. The majority of this damage is straight line winds. It's hard for people to comprehend that this was not a tornado, consider the magnitude of the damage that we dealt with. But we do and expect to find 80 to 100, maybe 100 plus mile an hour wind speeds is what tracked across a big part of our metropolitan area last night into downtown. As you get high rises, the winds get stronger as you get away from the friction effects of the ground. We were messaging for the downtown residents to seek a lower level and to move away from windows for that reason. After this press conference, I'm going to go downtown and take a look at the damage down there. So as of right now, we have not confirmed any. When we do, or if we do confirm a tornado, we will be sharing that out to everybody, hopefully here in the next few hours.
This may be a question for Centerpoint, but just, you said that the transmission lines are down. I know, people want to know, how do I find out if my house is tied to these transmission lines? Like, is it me that's going to be out of power for 2 weeks? Like, what's your message for people who are sitting in the dark right now?
My message is we're still, I'm Paul Locke with Centerpoint Energy. It's going to take us another day to assess. We've got 10 transmission lines down across our footprint, 7 of which are in Harris County. We hope to have our outage tracker back up and running soon, but this is going to be right now we're looking at a multi-day event. And as the judge said, we've got 4,000 mutual assistance folks en route to help us. But if you depend on life-saving equipment, you need to make plans now to find another place to stay.
Are most of those like in the Heights, Spring Branch area, like the places that are kind of blacked out right now? Because there are other parts of town that have power, but it's smaller capacity.
I'm not aware of that information, and everything I'm telling you is as of 8 o'clock this morning.
Do you want to tell them about not to check the tracker? I forgot that earlier.
Not to check
The
it.
outage
Yeah,
tracker.
the tracker's down right now. It'll be back up hopefully soon. And I would like to, from a safety perspective, I would say if you see a power line that's down, walk away. Please call us at 713-207-2222. If you smell natural gas inside your home, walk outside and go to a safe distance and call us and alert us as well.
One more question for the mayor. After the game tonight, to avoid downtown.
You know, I'm going to be honest with you. I've been so busy. It's on my mind, and we'll address that when we leave. We dealt with it last night during the rescue leading into our recovery. We notified the fans by public announcement, do not try to go back west through downtown. HPD set up some barricades requiring people to go east, of course, but the east end was hit really hard. But to go east from the stadium and use I-10 or go through Emancipation Drive and go to 45 to stay away from the west side. But downtown, I'm headed that way to do a damage assessment with the fire chief, public works, and police chief. It's bad. And as Representative Jones said, the homeless vulnerability is great due to just the glass, but workers need to get in there and replace the windows. And I would ask the business community to be very thoughtful in allowing their employees to work at home or be sensitive to the dangers of downtown. I have more to report. I'll let you know when I talk to the Astros here in a little while. I was even curious this morning, if you don't have power where the team is staying, not a home team, but the visiting team, it'd be interesting to see how they function, but that's not my highest priority. But it is an interesting point if you're going to try to conduct a game tonight. You know, I'm sitting here telling people to stay off the roads, and people love their Astros. They're on a pretty good streak right now. So it's going to be tempting to be downtown, but I will be talking to them. I'm certain Major League Baseball will make that decision, but I'll certainly do my part to express caution. There are things more important than a ball game today. We've lost lives. We got first responders exposed. I'm going to repeat again. I watched firefighters on 290 at about 6:45 live, getting wires and cables and transmission lines off of 290. I mean, that takes training, takes a lot of guts, and we're very fortunate to have our first responders, and we shouldn't wait till we're in a crisis to acknowledge them. What they did in Kingwood was amazing and saved lives. So anyway, any other questions? Then I've got to go to work.
Have you gotten a sense of what impact, if any, of this severe weather has had on fuel gas stations? Have you been able to?
You know, as I was traveling down Shepherd a while ago, most of the service stations and fast food establishments are without power. Some will be on generation. We'll, you know, we need some more diesel over at the East Side Water Plant. We've already ordered large amounts of diesel to come in to keep the lights on. The Lifeline services, such and HEB's already kicked in to provide ice and water for our communities. Kroger's doing their part. So it's just the recovery mode that we find ourselves in. There'll be adequate gas, I can assure you. You might have to travel to a larger, in fact, it is interesting, as the weather report was, we have pockets of power across Houston. So there may be some need to seek out a station, but we're in a recovery mode. Everyone's working as hard as they can, and let's be safe, use common sense, smarts. I raised my kids to tell them, remember the misery factor. You want to know what the misery factor is? You remember how miserable you are after you've messed up, and you try to remember that before you do it. So I would ask Houstonians to remember that misery factor. If you go out where there's live wires and you take chances, you're going to be miserable. So don't do it. Be safe and smart. Be proactive in your thinking. So anyway, thank y'all. Y'all have a key role. Any other questions? Then I'm going to get out of here.
Mark Sloan answer that one too for the county.
Go ahead, Mark.
Thank you, Mayor, Judge. Mark Sloan, I'm the Emergency Management Coordinator for Harris County. On fuel in all Lifeline sectors, we're constantly evaluating the status of those. So as you're out and about, you're going to run across areas without power. The convenience store may not have power and is not open. But as you see the swath of damage in the area, and as the mayor mentioned and the judges mentioned, there are areas that have power. So the resources are available, the supply is available. And once those stores and convenience stores and gas stations come back online, they will be replenished, and then you can access those. But again, life safety is our first and foremost priority. If you don't need to go out, don't. Stay home, wait it out, and then you'll be able to get around as needed, especially if you're in the impacted zones.
Is Cypress also an area to avoid right now? Cypress.
Yes, so it's pretty hard hit, and especially, well, you know, Bridgeland is right there. Thankfully, from what we've heard so far, it seems that it wasn't so much on the structures as much as the trees. But you know, I'm out there in that community often, riding my bike, and so I feel for everyone, but certainly think of my friends out there. In terms of Cypress, my friends are all without power out there, and you know, they could be the ones that are connected to those to those transmission lines. So we don't know yet. Just hang tight 24 hours for us to sort that out. But I know folks are going through a tough time. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Mayor.
All right, so again, you've been listening there as Harris County Judge Lena Hidalgo and Houston Mayor John Whitmire answer questions from the press. And the big thing right now, we need your patience because these power outages, and I know how frustrating it can be when you don't have power. And obviously you want to live a regular life because your power is out right now. Right. Your food could go bad in your refrigerator, all of that, and this could go on for days and even weeks. So we'll keep you posted for sure.
Yeah. But the big thing, of course, also is to stay safe out there. Don't be out if you don't need to be. And we have Nate Griffin, who's going to give us a look at more reasons why you don't need to be out and about. Nate, how is it looking where you are?
Well, once again, as the mayor said, you don't need to be in downtown Houston, but people are actually coming through downtown Houston. We're here at a restaurant, Russo's, where they're replacing window panes right now. These guys are actually at work. They're standing behind the camera, but they're actually at work repairing window panes down here. So that's dangerous in itself because it's glass. Now, when you move around a little bit, you see right across the street, you see trees down. That wind blew in the same direction. Those trees were all in the same direction. What had to happen was crews from the city of Houston came out, cut those trees, made it safe enough to be able to walk around. They blew a lot of that debris off the street. But here's something else I want you to see. Take a look at that street sign right across the street, the yellow. That's just how strong the wind was. So the wind blew in a couple of different directions. The trees are in one direction, the street signs are in one direction. That's how tough that wind was down here. And once again, you just don't know what to expect. Shelby was talking about some of the glass still falling, and you don't want that to happen. So it's just safe not to be down here because I can look on the street and I can see broken glass on the street. So you can actually, you can puncture a tire with some of this glass on the street. So that's why we stand down here, and this is why you don't need to come down here. Let the city of Houston continue their cleanup effort, guys.
Yeah, thank you, Nate, for giving us another look over in that area. So much damage in downtown and especially Northwest as well. So just a few things we want people to remember. Again, stay off the roads if you don't need to be out there. Also, if you have a generator that needs to be outside. We know a lot of people are still without power, 740,000 at last check. So keep that generator outside. That's where it belongs. And also we'll want to check on our elderly neighbors as we continue to warm up. Today should be mild, but we want to make sure that the people who are at risk are still okay.
Yeah. 15 libraries throughout the county will be open as cooling centers, areas you can cool off and charge your phone. That'll be open throughout the weekend. When we get that list, it will certainly be on our website in the Fox 26 app. Make sure you keep that app handy. Everything we know, you will know right there on the app. We'll be back at noon with an updating throughout our evening newscast starting at 5 p.m. as well. We hope you stay safe as well and keep that Fox Local app handy as well if you do have power. We got you covered throughout the day. We'll see you back here at noon and then again at 5 o'clock.
Welcome to Tom's DIY Garage. I'm Tom, and this is my workshop. Welcome to it. I'm glad to have you here. Hopefully you'll come on a weekly basis as we figure out a DIY project. We'll make a mess and we will emerge with something in hand and say, I made this. That's what this is all about. I have this spot because I don't have a basement, and Mrs. Ziska got tired of me taking over the garage, so I have this space to hold my ever-growing collection of tools, knickknacks, and doodads used to make stuff, which is what we're going to be doing. DIY, as the name suggests, is do it yourself. I'm a big fan. There are a variety of reasons why people DIY. Primarily for people, it starts with, I can save some money. I can do that myself. And you can. A lot of people do. Occasionally you find out you can't do it yourself, and you end up spending more money by hiring somebody who can do it. And then it's done. But in the meantime, you watch if you're smart and you gain a little bit of experience so that the next time maybe you can. I'm kind of both of those. I'm all about saving money. I'm frugal when I have to be. And I love working with my hands and making stuff and saying I made that. It started with my parents. They had pretty tight finances growing up, but they had some pretty big ideas, and my dad was very, very handy, and there was never a time where he didn't try to do it himself. It's how I start every project. It's, can I do that? Can I try it? So I watched my dad, and I got to that point where I can do a number of things by myself. When Mrs. Ziska and I first became homeowners, I still remember my mom saying, "Why would you want to own a home? You're not handy, Tom." 20 plus years later, it still makes us laugh just a little bit. And we remember that comment fondly. So I have done a number of things over the years. Big projects, small projects. I've shared a number of them with you just to show you what you can do if you put your mind to it. Kind of a process. That's what this is all going to be about. Maybe the biggest project I've ever done was in our last home. It was renovating our primary bathroom. It was a 1979 construction home. In the nearly 10 years that we lived there, I ended up rebuilding the whole house in some fashion. And that bathroom was kind of the capstone of it. And it was about saving money, we did, and it was about the experience. And it was pretty cool. And it was frustrating at times, but I learned a lot of stuff. And based on my previous track record, I had the support of Mrs. Ziska, and we set about getting it going. Take a look. Thinking about updating this 40-year-old bathroom is not without precedent in my home. I've had some practice after all. Over 8 years here, I've gutted and rebuilt my kitchen. Same for the family room from one corner to the next. I've even built some furniture along the way.
Hello, Texas.
Hey, Dad, how are you?
Not bad for an old timer.
That's my dad on the phone from Michigan with the dad joke. I got the DIY bug from him growing up. If there was something that needed building, he built it. But where did that come from for you? Why were you always the one doing the work?
Because I got it from my dad.
So the bathroom is not so much a scary job, but a new one that takes some planning. My wife is the project manager. She's laid out a schedule for every step of the way. And already we've been talking to suppliers and contractors who will pick up some of the specialized work. I'd be remiss if I didn't ask if there's any wiggle room at all in your estimate. Houses this old have galvanized plumbing, which leaks after a while, so that'll be replaced. This old tub and shower combination will make way for a stand-up shower. And the rickety built-in cupboards have seen much better days. Once everything's been torn out, fresh vanities are ready to go in, along with the new tile for the floors, the shower, and the backsplash. All that in 60 days. All right.
It's your turn.
Good job, honey.
Thanks, bud.
Day one, demo day, teamwork, and advanced planning. You just can't go willy-nilly start sawing into walls and stuff because there might be electricity there or there might be plumbing there. So I've done all that, but it's important to point that out so that you do not end up cutting something that you really don't want to cut. So the first step in rebuilding the shower here is having some place for the water to go, and that means rebuilding the drain. The drain that was here for the tub needs to be changed. This PVC assembly will connect like that. Now that the shower is covered in tile backer board to help make it waterproof, I know there's a lot more to it. I'll get to that. But now comes the most complicated part of the whole deal, the shower pan. Some people will recognize this product. This is called Quick Pitch. It's designed for people like me who don't do this all the time, and it sets up the exact pitch so that the water drains appropriately. Okay, we're good there, so I have that. For this part, YouTube videos can be an enormous help, but DIY still means do it yourself. This is about as troublesome as I expected it would be. Once we had the bathroom demoed out and cleared out and I had that shower pan built, I want to tell you that a recurring theme for really a lot of DIY for me and probably for you, and if not, I would certainly recommend it, is the YouTube. I spent a lot of time on YouTube figuring out how to build that shower pan, and I am in awe of people who do it on a regular basis. Kudos to them. They're worth every penny. If they tell you it takes a bunch of money, there's a reason it takes a bunch of money, because it's a lot of very exacting work. So the nice thing about a shower, if it works correctly, is that it is waterproof. That's not an easy thing to do. Again, I went back to the YouTube and I used a product. There's some old school ways to do it, but I used a fairly new product. It's Kerdi, K-E-R-D-I membrane. There are some people who know exactly what I'm talking about. You may have seen it in Lowe's or Home Depot or someplace else. It's a waterproof pink membrane. It's kind of fuzzy on one side. There's a reason it's fuzzy, because that holds the thin set and the tile as you put it on. But it comes in these massive, you can't see my arms, but these massive rolls, and you got to cut it to size and make the corners just so that the water goes where you want it to go and it doesn't go where you don't want it to go. There's a lot of work in making a shower waterproof. Oh boy, can I tell you, there's a lot of work. So that means kind of cutting the corners so that everything folds just so before you apply, I'll say glue, but it's kind of like a thin set, a special kind of thin set that you would use for tiles. And back at it several days later, all of the waterproof membrane is now attached to the shower walls. A lot of work, but fairly straightforward. For people who have used this product before, you may recognize this is not the prettiest job. My first time using this, and you know, unless I build another shower, it's my last, but I think it will do the trick. One more step before it is fully waterproof is this kind of roll-on, brush-on membrane that goes on top of everything else. It gets rolled on like a really thick paint. You need a couple coats of it. Ultimately, it needs to be about the thickness of a credit card. Now, with 2 coats of that membrane brushed on, the last thing to do to see if it's waterproof is to see if it's waterproof. There is a special drain plug designed just for this. And you fill the whole thing with water and you let it sit. And now, after sitting for 24 hours, the water line is solid. Looks like it works, ready for tile. The back wall of the shower is the largest and probably second most complicated of the 3. Pretty straightforward, except for tiling around the surround of the window. It is all good practice for tiling the niches that are adjacent to it. That will require lots of pieces of tile and lots of cutting. Speaking of cutting tile, the first time I did